There is a book that found you, not one you searched for, not one someone recommended at the right moment, though maybe that's how it arrived. Not one you stumbled upon by accident, though it may have looked exactly like an accident from the outside. There is a book that found you, and if you're honest with yourself, you know the one I mean. You know the feeling of it, that particular quality of recognition when you opened it. The way certain sentences seemed to already know you. The way it answered questions you hadn't yet put into words. The way you felt, reading it, like something in the universe had finally turned to look at you directly. That wasn't a coincidence. That was your aura doing something extraordinary. That was your energy field, your actual, measurable, electromagnetic personal field, broadcasting a signal so coherent, so clear, so precisely tuned to what you were ready to receive, that the quantum field had no choice but to deliver. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Because here's what most people don't understand about the books that find them, about the messages that arrive at exactly the right moment, about the teachers and transmissions and turning points that appear precisely when they're needed most. Most people chalk it up to luck, or they call it a happy coincidence and move on, or they feel the significance of it. They feel it in their chest, in the quality of their attention, in the way time seems to slow down around that moment, but they don't have the language or the framework to understand what actually happened. So they hold the feeling loosely, and eventually it fades, and they go back to living as though the universe is random. But your aura knows otherwise. Your energy field has been tracking this your whole life. Every book that found you, every message that arrived at the perfect moment, every teacher, every transmission, every sentence that cracked something open in you, your field was broadcasting for all of it. You were calling it in, not from your mind, not from your intentions or your vision boards or your carefully constructed desires. From your field, from the living, radiating, electromagnetic signature that you broadcast into the quantum field every single moment of every single day. And when the universe finally has your attention, when something in you has shifted enough, opened enough, become coherent enough, that's when the books arrive. That's when the transmissions land. That's when you find yourself reading words that feel like they were written for you specifically by someone who somehow knew exactly where you were, exactly what you needed, exactly what was ready to crack open in you. This is not mysticism. This is quantum mechanics. This is the measurable science of your personal energy field. And today, we are going to go all the way into it. We're going to talk about what your aura is actually doing when a book finds you. We're going to explore the quantum mechanics of why certain transmissions arrive at certain moments and not before. We're going to look at what it means when the universe finally has your attention. What changed in your field? What signal you started broadcasting? What frequency shift made you suddenly visible to the exact information you needed? We're going to explore the nature of books as quantum objects, as crystallized fields of consciousness that carry a frequency, that have their own broadcast, and that move through the world, finding the fields they're coherent with. And we're going to look at what happens next, what you do with the transmission once it's arrived, how you receive it fully, how you let it do what it came to do. And I want to start right here, right now, with something I want you to feel rather than just understand. Place your attention on your chest, not your mind, your chest, the physical center of your heart. And notice, if you can, that there is something radiating from that place right now. A warmth, a quality of aliveness, a field that extends beyond the boundary of your skin. You don't have to imagine it. It's already there. The HeartMath Institute has spent decades measuring it. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart extends, on average, between 4 and 8 feet beyond your body in every direction. It is measurable. It is real. It carries information, specific, complex, coherent information about your emotional state, your nervous system's current pattern, your deepest held beliefs about reality, your readiness to receive. That field is your aura. That field is what the quantum world reads. And right now, in this moment, as you're watching this, that field is broadcasting something. Something about where you are. Something about what you're ready for. Something about what has shifted in you recently. Because something has. Something brought you here. Something in your field is different than it was. And that difference is exactly what we're going to explore. Your light is on. It has always been on. But right now, it's doing something specific. And you deserve to understand what that is. What we're exploring today is one layer of something much larger. If you want the complete map, the full quantum architecture of how your signal works and how to return it to coherence, I've written something for you called the Remembering Field, a quantum guide to returning to the light you forgot you were carrying. and it walks you through all 7 movements from unconscious broadcast to conscious, coherent radiance, grounded in the quantum mechanics of your actual electromagnetic field. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Let's begin with the science of why books find you. Not books in general, not the ones you researched and deliberately chose, the ones that found you, the ones that appeared in your life at a moment that, in retrospect, you can only describe as perfect timing. The ones that seemed to know you were coming. The ones that, when you opened them, felt less like reading and more like remembering, less like receiving new information and more like being seen. To understand how this works, we need to understand something fundamental about the nature of your energy field and the nature of the quantum world it broadcasts into. Your aura, your electromagnetic field, is not a passive thing. It is not a bubble that simply surrounds you and protects you from the outside world. It is an active broadcast, a continuous, moment-to-moment transmission of frequency information that radiates outward from you and interacts with the quantum field in ways that are only now beginning to be understood by mainstream science, though they've been known at the level of lived experience for as long as human beings have been alive. Here's what that means at the quantum level. The quantum field, the fundamental substrate of reality from which all physical phenomena emerge, is not empty. It is not a passive backdrop against which events occur. It is an active, responsive, information-rich field that is in constant interaction with every electromagnetic signal that moves through it, including yours, including the field your heart generates right now as you sit here reading or listening to these words. Quantum field theory tells us that every particle, every object, every system exists not as a fixed, solid thing, but as a probability field, a range of possible states that collapses into a specific, observable reality based on interaction, based on resonance, based on the coherence of the signals involved. What this means in practical, personal terms is that the reality you experience, the events, the encounters, the information, the people, the books, is not randomly delivered to you. It is assembled around the frequency you broadcast. It collapses into the specific form that is coherent with your signal. This is not a metaphor. This is quantum resonance, and your aura is the instrument through which it operates in your life. Now here's where it gets extraordinary. Books, physical books, digital texts, transmissions of any kind are not just collections of words. They are crystallized fields of consciousness. When a human being writes with depth, with genuine transmission, with the kind of coherence that comes from real knowing, they embed their frequency into the text. The words carry an energetic signature. The book has a field, and that field broadcasts not as loudly or as widely as a living human aura, but with a kind of crystalline precision, a fixed, stable frequency that persists through time and space, waiting for the field it's coherent with. Think about the books that have changed your life. Think about the ones that found you at exactly the right moment. There's a quality to them that's different from the books you read and forgot. A quality of resonance, of recognition, of something that feels almost like the text was written in a frequency you can receive particularly well. Because it was. Not because the author knew you personally, because the frequency they wrote from was coherent with the frequency you were broadcasting when you needed it most. And this is why the same book can land completely differently for two different people, or land completely differently for the same person at different moments in their life. You may have encountered a book years ago that meant nothing to you, and then picked it up again later and found it completely transformative. The book didn't change. You did. Your field changed. Your broadcast shifted. And suddenly, you were coherent with what the book was transmitting. And the transmission landed. This is your aura in action. This is your electromagnetic field doing exactly what it's designed to do. Broadcasting your frequency into the quantum field and drawing toward you the information, the encounters, the transmissions that are coherent with where you actually are. But there's a crucial distinction I want to make here, because it changes everything about how you understand the books that find you. There's a difference between what your mind wants and what your field is broadcasting. And most of the time, when a book finds you at exactly the right moment, it's not because your mind called it in. It's because your field did. And your field broadcasts from a much deeper place than your conscious desires. Your field broadcasts from your actual frequency, from the sum total of your beliefs, your emotional patterns, your nervous system's habitual state, your deepest held truths about what's possible for you and what isn't. This is why the books that find you often address things you didn't know you needed to hear, things you weren't consciously looking for, things that, when you encounter them, feel less like new information and more like something you already knew but had forgotten, or something you'd been circling around without being able to name. Your field was broadcasting for that. Your aura knew what you needed before your mind did. And when the book arrived, when the transmission landed, what you felt wasn't just intellectual interest. It was recognition. It was your field responding to something coherent with itself. That recognition, that particular quality of resonance, when the right book finds you at the right moment, that is your aura speaking. That is your electromagnetic field saying, yes, this is what we've been broadcasting for. This is what we were ready to receive. And now I want to talk about what it means when the universe finally has your attention. Because that phrase, when the universe finally has your attention, carries something important in it. The word finally. That word suggests a before, a period during which the universe was trying to get through and couldn't quite reach you. A period during which transmissions were being sent and not quite landing. A period during which the right books, the right messages, the right encounters were perhaps orbiting your field, but not quite finding their way in. We've all been there. Most of us have spent significant portions of our lives in that state, not because we were doing anything wrong, but because our field was broadcasting at a frequency that wasn't coherent enough to receive what was being sent. Because our aura was so full of static, so occupied with the noise of fear, of conditioning, of unconscious patterns running on repeat, that the clearer transmissions couldn't get through. Think about what static actually is in electromagnetic terms. Static is incoherence. It's what happens when a signal is disrupted by competing frequencies, by noise, by interference patterns that prevent the clean transmission of information. And your aura can be in a state of static. Not because you're broken, not because you're not spiritual enough, or evolved enough, or conscious enough, but because you're human, because you've been conditioned, because you've been carrying patterns in your nervous system, your emotional body that create interference in your field, that introduce noise into your broadcast and make it harder for coherent transmissions to find you. Fear is static. Chronic anxiety is static. The constant mental noise of self-doubt, of overthinking, of rehearsing worst-case scenario, all of it generates electromagnetic interference in your field. Not metaphorically, measurably. The HeartMath Institute's research on heart rate variability shows clearly that states of stress, fear, and anxiety produce incoherent, erratic heart rhythms. And incoherent heart rhythms mean an incoherent field. A field full of static. A field that broadcasts confusion rather than clarity. and that struggles to receive the coherent transmissions that are available to it. This is why the books that find you tend to arrive at turning points, at moments of shift, at moments when something in you has changed enough, opened enough, quieted enough for the signal to get through. The universe didn't suddenly start sending. The transmissions were always available, but something in your field changed. Something cleared. Something opened. Something became coherent enough. And suddenly, you could receive what was always there. And here's what that shift feels like from the inside. It feels like a kind of tiredness with the old patterns, a weariness with the noise, a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes dramatic, sometimes both, when you simply stop fighting what's true and let something land. It might look like a crisis. It might look like a breakdown. It might look like a period of unusual stillness, or unusual searching, or unusual openness. But at the level of your field, what's happening is a shift toward coherence. The static is clearing. The noise is quieting. And in that clearing, you become receivable. You become visible to the transmissions that were always meant for you. And that's when the book arrives. Let me tell you about a woman named Mara. Mara had spent 15 years being very, very busy. She was good at it, the busyness. She was good at the lists and the schedules and the constant forward motion that kept her feeling like she was doing something, making progress, earning her place. She was good at the particular kind of noise that looks like productivity from the outside, but feels, on the inside, like running from something you can't quite name. She wasn't unhappy exactly, or she didn't allow herself to think of it that way. She was fine. She was managing. She was doing all the right things in all the right order and producing the expected results. But there was a quality to her days, a flatness, a sense of motion without direction, a feeling of being in the right life, but somehow slightly outside of it, watching it happen rather than living it, that she had learned very efficiently not to look at directly. Her aura during those 15 years was broadcasting a very specific signal. Not a bad signal, not a broken signal, but a busy signal. A signal that said, occupied, not available, no space here. The frequency of her field was dominated by the patterns of performance, of constant doing, of the particular kind of hypervigilance that looks like competence, but is actually fear, wearing a very convincing disguise. And in that state, in that particular quality of electromagnetic busyness, certain transmissions simply couldn't find her. The books that were coherent with her deeper frequency, her actual frequency beneath the noise, couldn't quite land. They'd orbit her life. She'd see them mentioned, notice them on shelves, hear friends talk about them. But they didn't quite reach her. The timing was never quite right. She was never quite ready. And then something happened that she hadn't planned and couldn't control. Her body stopped cooperating with the busyness. Nothing dramatic, no crisis, no catastrophe, just a quiet, persistent exhaustion that wouldn't respond to sleep or rest or the usual remedies. A tiredness that was clearly not physical. A tiredness that was her field saying, in the only language it had left, "We can't keep broadcasting this signal. Something has to change." She took a week off, not because she wanted to, because she had to. And in that week, in the unusual quiet of days without agenda, something in her field began to shift. The static began to clear. The noise of constant doing faded. And in the silence, something else began to emerge. A quality of attention she hadn't felt in years. A kind of listening, an openness. On the third day of that week, she went to a small bookshop she'd walked past hundreds of times without going in. She had no particular reason to go in that day. She wasn't looking for anything. She was just walking, slowly, which was itself unusual. And the door was open. And something about the quality of the light inside made her turn. She found a book on a table near the door, not displayed prominently, not on a recommended shelf, just sitting there, slightly apart from the others, as though it had been waiting. She picked it up, read the first page, and felt, in her chest, that particular quality of recognition, that electromagnetic resonance, that sense of a transmission landing that her field had been ready to receive for a very long time. She stood in that bookshop for an hour, reading. She bought the book. She went home and read it in 2 days, and by the end of it, something in her had shifted so fundamentally that the life she returned to after that week looked the same from the outside, but felt completely different from the inside, because she was different. Her field was different. The static had cleared enough for something true to land, and what landed changed everything. Now here's what I want you to understand about Mara's story. The book didn't cause the shift. The shift in her field made the book findable. The week of quiet the unusual stillness, the body's insistence on rest, those weren't obstacles to her life. They were her aura, creating the conditions for coherence. Her field, forcing a clearing of the static because it knew, at a level deeper than her conscious mind, that something was ready to arrive. Something was ready to land. And it needed space to do so. This is how the universe gets your attention. Not by shouting louder, not by sending bigger signals, but by creating the conditions, sometimes gently, sometimes through circumstances that feel like disruption, in which your field becomes coherent enough to receive what was always being sent. The question is not whether the universe is sending you transmissions. It always is. The question is whether your field is clear enough to receive them. And this brings us to something I want to explore very carefully, because it's one of the most important things I can show you about your own energy field. There are two kinds of readiness. There's the readiness your mind claims, the readiness of wanting, of intending, of deciding you're open to change. And there's the readiness your field broadcasts, the actual coherence of your electromagnetic signal, the real state of your nervous system, the genuine openness of your energy body to receive. These two kinds of readiness don't always match. And when they don't match, the transmissions don't land. You can want a book to change your life and read it at the wrong moment and find it interesting but not transformative. You can intend to be open and still be broadcasting at a frequency that keeps the deeper transmissions at arm's length. Because your field doesn't broadcast what you want to be true. It broadcasts what is actually true. The actual state of your nervous system, your emotional body, your deepest held patterns. This is not a failure. This is information. And it's information you can work with. Because here's what changes everything. The moment you become conscious of your broadcast, the nature of the broadcast begins to shift. Not because consciousness is magic, though in a very real quantum sense it is, but because consciousness introduces something into your field that unconscious patterns cannot generate. It introduces coherence. It introduces the particular quality of electromagnetic order that comes from genuine self-awareness, genuine presence, genuine contact with what's actually true in you right now. If this transmission is landing for you, if something in your field is resonating with what we're exploring together, it would mean a great deal to have your support. Liking this video and subscribing keeps this field growing and ensures the next transmission finds you when it's ready to arrive. The HeartMath Institute's research on heart coherence is extraordinary in this regard. When you enter a state of genuine heart coherence, when your heart rhythm becomes smooth, ordered, sinusoidal, the electromagnetic field your heart generates becomes dramatically more powerful and more organized. And that organized field radiates outward and interacts with the quantum field in a fundamentally different way than an incoherent field does. It becomes a cleaner signal, a stronger broadcast, a more precise transmission that the quantum field can read and respond to with greater accuracy. And what generates heart coherence? Not positive thinking, not affirmations, not willing yourself to feel better. Genuine coherence is generated by genuine emotional states, by real appreciation, by authentic love, by sincere gratitude, by the kind of presence that comes from actually being here, in your body, in contact with what's real. These emotional states produce specific, measurable changes in heart rhythm that cascade through your entire nervous system and radiate outward through your field. This is why the moments when the right books find you are so often moments of unusual presence, moments when, for whatever reason, you're more here than usual, more open, more genuinely in contact with your own experience. Because in those moments, your field is more coherent, the static is lower, the signal is clearer, and the transmissions that are coherent with your actual frequency can finally find you. Now let's go deeper into what your aura is actually doing when it calls in a transmission. Because I want to give you a precise picture of the quantum mechanics here, because it's more beautiful and more personal than most people realize. Your electromagnetic field, your aura, is in constant, continuous interaction with the quantum field around you. Not occasionally, not when you're meditating or being spiritual or paying attention. Always. Every moment. Your heart is beating, generating its electromagnetic field, broadcasting its signal into the quantum field, and the quantum field is responding. This is happening right now as you read these words. It was happening while you slept last night. It was happening the day you were born. And it will be happening on the last day of your life. The quantum field responds to your signal through a process called quantum resonance, the tendency of quantum systems to synchronize with, amplify, and respond to signals that are coherent with their own frequency. When your field broadcasts a coherent signal, when your heart rhythm is ordered, your nervous system is regulated, your emotional state is genuine and present. The quantum field resonates with that signal. And in that resonance, possibilities that were previously in a state of quantum superposition, existing simultaneously as multiple potential realities, begin to collapse toward the specific forms that are coherent with your broadcast. What this means in practical terms is that your coherent field literally increases the probability of coherent encounters. It increases the probability that the right book will appear on the right table at the right moment, that the right person will say the right thing, that you'll turn to the right page at the right time, that the transmission you're ready for will find its way to you through whatever channel is available. This is not the universe being magical and mysterious. This is the universe operating according to its own quantum mechanical principles. Principles that your energy field interacts with directly, continuously, and powerfully. And here's the layer that most people never reach. Your field doesn't just call in transmissions. It also determines how deeply they land. The same book, arriving at two different moments in your life, will land at completely different depths, depending on the coherence of your field when you receive it. At a moment of low coherence, when you're stressed, distracted, running on the static of fear or habit, even the most powerful transmission will land at the surface. You'll read the words. You might even find them interesting, but they won't reach the depth of your field where real change happens. They won't touch the places in you that are ready to shift. But at a moment of high coherence, when your field is clear, when you're genuinely present, when something in you has opened, the same transmission will land at a completely different depth. It will reach the places in you that have been waiting. It will resonate with the patterns in your field that are ready to reorganize. And it will do what it came to do. Not just inform you, but actually shift the frequency of your broadcast. This is why the timing matters so much. This is why the book that finds you when the universe has your attention lands differently than any book you've deliberately sought, because the universe having your attention is not a metaphor. It's a description of a specific state of your energy field, a state of unusual coherence, unusual openness, unusual receptivity, in which transmissions can reach the depth of your field where they can actually do their work. Let's pause here. Let's actually do something together, right now, that will help you feel what I'm describing, rather than just understand it conceptually. Because your field learns through experience, not through information. And I want to give your field an experience of its own coherence right now, so that what I'm sharing lands at the depth it's meant to reach. Bring your attention into your heart center. Not your mind, your heart. The physical space in the center of your chest. And just rest your attention there for a moment, not trying to feel anything specific, just placing your awareness there, gently, like setting something down. Now, without trying to manufacture anything, see if you can find something real to appreciate, something genuine. It doesn't have to be large. It doesn't have to be profound. A moment of beauty you've experienced recently. A person in your life whose presence you genuinely value. The fact that you're here, right now, choosing to expand your understanding of your own energy field. The fact that something in you is open enough to receive this transmission. Whatever is genuinely true for you right now, find it and let yourself feel it for a moment. Notice what happens in your chest when you do that. Notice the quality of the warmth there. Notice the slight expansion. Notice the way your breathing naturally deepens and slows. That's not imagination. That's your heart rhythm shifting toward coherence. That's your electromagnetic field reorganizing around a genuinely ordered signal. That's your aura becoming clearer, stronger, more precise in its broadcast. And in this state, right now, in this moment, you are more receivable than you were 30 seconds ago. The transmissions that are coherent with your actual frequency are finding you more easily. The quantum field is responding to your cleaner signal with greater precision. You have just, in a very real and measurable sense, made yourself more available to what the universe is sending. This is the practice. This is what conscious radiance actually looks like. Not a grand gesture, not a dramatic spiritual experience. Just this, the gentle, deliberate return to genuine coherence, the choice to feel something real, the decision to let your field broadcast from its actual depth rather than its surface noise. And from this place, I want to take you into something even deeper. I want to talk about the books that found you before you were ready for them. You know what I mean, the ones that arrived, and you could feel that they were significant, but you couldn't quite receive them. The ones you started and put down. The ones you owned for years without reading. The ones a friend pressed into your hands with the words, "You need to read this." And you nodded and meant it, and somehow never quite got there. The ones that sat on your shelf for so long that they started to feel like furniture. And then one day, you picked them up and couldn't put them down. Those books were broadcasting. They were transmitting a frequency that your field was coherent with at a level below your conscious awareness, but not yet coherent enough with at the level required for full reception. They were in your orbit because your field had called them in. Your aura had broadcast a signal that was coherent enough with their frequency to draw them into your vicinity. But something in your field wasn't yet clear enough, open enough, ready enough for the transmission to fully land. This is not failure. This is the intelligence of your energy field operating exactly as it should. Your aura knows, at a level that precedes conscious understanding, what you're ready for and what you're not yet ready for. And it manages the timing with a precision that your conscious mind could never achieve. Think about the books that sat on your shelf for years and then suddenly called to you. What changed? Not the book. You. Something in your field shifted. Some pattern cleared. Some coherence increased. Some readiness emerged. And suddenly, the book that had been waiting in your orbit could finally complete its journey to you. Could finally land at the depth it was always meant to reach. Your aura was managing that timing. Your field was holding the book in orbit until you were ready to receive it fully. And when the moment came, when your field became coherent enough, the book found you. Even though it had been sitting on your shelf for 3 years. Has that ever happened to you? A book waiting on your shelf for years. And then one day, it simply called to you. And when you opened it, you understood immediately why it had waited. I'd love to hear about that moment. Share it in the comments. What was the book? And what had shifted in you when it finally landed? This is one of the most beautiful aspects of how your energy field works. It doesn't just call in what you need. It manages the timing of when you receive it. It holds transmissions in orbit around you, in the quantum probability field of your life, until the moment when you're coherent enough to receive them fully. And then it delivers them. This means that nothing is ever truly missed. No transmission that your field has called in is ever lost. It waits. In the quantum field, in the probability space of your life, it waits for the moment of coherence that will allow it to land. You can't miss what's yours. You can only delay it by staying in static. And even then, the delay is not punishment. It's the intelligence of your field protecting you from receiving transmissions before you're ready for what they'll activate in you. Because here's something important. The right book at the right moment doesn't just inform you. It activates something. It reorganizes something in your field. It shifts the frequency of your broadcast in ways that change what you can subsequently receive. what you can subsequently create, what becomes possible for you in the quantum field of your life. And if that reorganization happens before you're ready, before your field has the coherence to integrate it, it can be destabilizing rather than transformative. Your aura knows this. Your field manages this with an intelligence that is profound and protective and deeply caring of your actual evolution. The timing of what finds you is not random. It is the precise, quantum mechanical expression of your field's readiness. And when the universe finally has your attention, when the static clears, and the coherence rises, and the book arrives at exactly the right moment, you can trust that completely. You can trust that this is the right moment, that your field is ready, that what's arriving is arriving because you are coherent enough to receive it fully. Now let me tell you about a man named Elias. Elias had been given the same book 3 times. 3 different people in 3 different years had pressed it into his hands and said some version of the same thing. This is for you. I don't know why, but I know this is for you. And 3 times, Elias had thanked them sincerely, placed the book somewhere visible, and never opened it. He wasn't dismissive of books. He read constantly: history, science, biography, the occasional novel. He was curious and intelligent and genuinely engaged with ideas. But this particular book, every time it arrived, felt somehow too close, too direct, too much like looking at something he wasn't quite ready to see. He couldn't have articulated that at the time. He just knew, at some level below conscious thought, that he wasn't ready for whatever was in those pages. The 3rd copy sat on his nightstand for 2 years. He moved it when he changed apartments. He saw it every morning when he woke up, and every night before he slept. And for 2 years, he didn't open it. And then his father died. Not suddenly. It was expected. It had been coming for months. There was time to prepare in the ways you can prepare. But when it happened, something in Elias shifted at a level so fundamental that it felt less like grief and more like a reorganization, like something in the architecture of his inner world had changed, and the new configuration was different enough from the old one that he was, in some essential way, a different person than he had been before. 2 weeks after the funeral, in the particular quality of quiet that follows an enormous loss, he picked up the book. He didn't plan to. He reached for it the way you reach for something in the dark, not seeing it, just knowing it's there. He opened it to the first page, and he read it in one sitting through the night. And when he finished it, He sat in the early morning light and understood, with a clarity that felt almost physical, why it had taken 3 copies and 2 years and his father's death to make him ready. The book was about legacy, about the things we carry from the people who shaped us, about the frequency we inherit and the frequency we choose, about the difference between the life that was handed to you and the life that is actually yours. And Elias, in the particular clarity of his grief, in the unusual coherence that sometimes comes with great loss, when all the noise of ordinary life falls away and only what's essential remains, received every word of it at the depth it was meant to reach. His field had been calling in that book for 3 years. His aura had broadcast the signal that drew it to him 3 separate times through 3 separate people who couldn't have known they were doing it. But his field had also been managing the timing, holding the transmission in orbit, keeping it close, waiting for the moment when he would be coherent enough to receive it fully. When the static of his ordinary life would be quiet enough for the transmission to land at the depth that would actually change him. The moment came when it was supposed to come. Not when Elias decided he was ready, not when he planned to receive it, but when his field became coherent enough through the particular, terrible, clarifying experience of loss to receive what had been waiting for him for 3 years. That's not a sad story. That's a story about the intelligence of your energy field, about the way your aura manages the timing of your evolution with a precision and a care that your conscious mind could never achieve, about the way the universe doesn't just send you what you need. It sends it at exactly the moment you're ready to receive it fully. And it's a story about something else, too. Something I want to name directly. Sometimes the universe gets your attention through loss, through disruption, through the particular kind of clearing that happens when something you were holding on to, something that was generating static in your field, is taken from you, or falls away, or simply ends. And in the sound that opens, in the unusual quiet that follows the noise, your field becomes coherent in a way it couldn't be while the noise was there. And in that coherence, transmissions that were always available to you can finally land. This is not the universe punishing you. This is not loss as lesson in the punitive sense. This is your energy field, your living, intelligent, deeply caring electromagnetic field, creating the conditions for your own evolution. Sometimes gently, sometimes through circumstances that feel like disruption, but always with the precision and the timing that your actual readiness requires. The question to ask when something falls away is not, "Why is this happening to me?" The question is, "What in my field is this clearing? What static is this removing? What coherence is this making possible?" Because something is always being made possible. Some transmission is always waiting in the clearing. Some book is always ready to find you, once the noise is quiet enough for it to land. Feel your field right now. Notice what's radiating. Whatever you're carrying, whatever experience brought you to this transmission today, notice that it's part of the clearing. Notice that something in you is more open than it was. That something in your field has shifted enough to bring you here, to bring you to these words, to make you receivable in this moment. That's not accident. That's your aura doing what it does, broadcasting for what you're ready to receive and drawing it to you with the precision of a field that knows exactly what it needs. Your light is on. It has always been on. Now let me show you something about the quantum mechanics of reception, about what actually happens in your field when a transmission lands fully. When a book finds you at the right moment, when the transmission arrives in a state of genuine field coherence, something happens that goes far beyond the intellectual processing of information. Something happens at the level of your electromagnetic field itself. The HeartMath Institute's research on what they call neural and cardiac coherence shows that in states of genuine heart coherence, the brain and heart begin to synchronize. Their electromagnetic rhythms align, creating a state of whole-body coherence that dramatically increases the depth and speed of learning, the accessibility of intuition, and the integration of new information at the level of the nervous system, rather than just the intellect. What this means for the experience of receiving a transmission, reading a book that finds you at exactly the right moment, is that in that state of coherence, the information doesn't just register in your conscious mind. It registers in your body, in your nervous system, in the deep patterns of your electromagnetic field. It reorganizes something at a level that is pre-verbal, pre-intellectual, pre-conscious. It changes the actual frequency of your broadcast. This is why the books that truly find you, the ones that land at the right depth, change you in ways you can feel, but sometimes can't articulate. Because the change isn't just cognitive. It's not just a new idea or a new perspective. It's a genuine shift in the frequency of your field. A reorganization of the patterns that determine what you broadcast, and therefore what reality assembles around you. And here's what that means for your life going forward. Every book that finds you and truly lands, every transmission that reaches the depth of your field and reorganizes something there, changes what you can subsequently receive. It raises the coherence of your field. It clears some static. It makes your broadcast more precise, more powerful, more resonant with the frequencies of what you're actually here to create and experience. This is the cumulative effect of genuine reception. Each transmission that lands fully raises your field's capacity for the next one. Each book that truly finds you and does its work increases your coherence, clarifies your signal, and makes you more available to the next transmission that's waiting for you in the quantum field of your life. This is not a metaphor for spiritual growth. This is the actual quantum mechanics of your electromagnetic field's evolution. You are, through each genuine reception, literally becoming a more powerful and more coherent broadcaster. And as your broadcast becomes more coherent, reality assembles around it with greater precision, greater speed, greater alignment with your actual frequency. What you radiate, reality assembles around. And as your radiance becomes more conscious, more coherent, more genuinely aligned with your actual frequency, reality responds with increasing precision. Now, I want to go into something that I think is one of the most practically important aspects of this entire transmission. Most people, when the right book finds them, don't fully receive it. Not because they don't read it, not because they don't find it meaningful, but because they receive it at the level of the mind rather than the level of the field. They process it intellectually. They highlight the good parts. They think about how it applies to their situation. They share it with friends. They recommend it to people who need it. And all of that is real and valuable. But they don't let it do what it came to do at the level of their electromagnetic field. They don't let it land at the depth where it can actually reorganize the frequency of their broadcast. And this is the difference between a book that changes your life and a book that you found interesting and then forgot. The difference is not in the book. The difference is in the depth of reception. The difference is whether you received it at the level of the mind or at the level of the field. Receiving at the level of the field requires something that our culture doesn't particularly value and rarely teaches. It requires slowness. It requires presence. It requires the willingness to stop reading and feel what's happening in your body when a passage lands. To notice the resonance. To sit with the recognition. To let the transmission complete its journey from the page into your nervous system, into your electromagnetic field, into the deep patterns of your broadcast. It requires In other words, the kind of coherent receptivity that I've been describing throughout this transmission. The state in which your heart rhythm is ordered, your nervous system is regulated, your attention is genuinely present rather than partially elsewhere. The state in which your field is clear enough to receive at depth. This is a practice, a learnable, developable practice. And it begins with something very simple: the decision to read or to receive any transmission from your heart rather than your head. What does that mean in practice? It means that when you pick up a book that has found you, you don't just start reading with your analytical mind engaged and your body on autopilot. You begin by arriving, by taking a moment to settle into your body, by placing your attention in your heart center and letting your field settle into a state of genuine receptivity, by asking, not with your mind, but with your field, what is this transmission here to show me? What am I ready to receive? And then you read. But you read with your whole field engaged. You notice not just what's interesting to your mind, but what resonates in your body, what creates that particular quality of warmth or recognition or expansion in your chest, what makes your breathing deepen or your eyes fill with tears, or your heart rate subtly change, because those are the signals from your field, the electromagnetic responses that tell you when a transmission is landing at depth. When something is reaching the places in you where real reorganization can happen, when you feel those signals, you stop. You don't rush past them to get to the next interesting idea. You stop, and you breathe, and you let the transmission complete its journey. You let it land. You let your field receive it fully. Integrate it. Begin the reorganization that it came to catalyze. This is how you receive a book the way it was meant to be received. This is how you let the transmissions that find you do their full work. This is how you honor the intelligence of your field that called them in, and the timing that managed their arrival, by receiving them at the depth they were always meant to reach. Let's do this together, right now. Let's practice receiving at the level of the field. Settle into your body. Feel your weight in your seat. Feel the ground beneath you. Take one slow, deliberate breath in through your nose, feeling your chest and belly expand, and out through your mouth, long and slow, releasing whatever tension you've been carrying. Bring your attention to your heart center, that warm space in the middle of your chest. And notice right now what's there, not what you think should be there. What's actually there. Whatever quality of feeling, openness, curiosity, something tender, something ready, something that brought you to this transmission today. Let yourself feel it. Don't analyze it. Don't explain it. Just feel it. Let it be real. And now notice, in this moment, your field is more coherent than it was a moment ago. Your heart rhythm has shifted slightly toward order. Your nervous system has relaxed slightly toward regulation. Your broadcast has become slightly cleaner, slightly more precise, slightly more aligned with your actual frequency. And in this state, I want to offer you something, a truth about your energy field that I want to land at depth, not just register in your mind. You have never been without guidance. Never. Not for a single moment of your life. Your field has always been broadcasting, always been calling in what you needed, always been managing the timing of your evolution with intelligence and care. The books that found you were not accidents. The transmissions that arrived at the right moment were not coincidences. The teachers, the encounters, the turning points, all of it was your field doing what it does, with a precision and a purpose that your conscious mind is only now beginning to understand. You have been guided this whole time by your own field, by the intelligence of your own electromagnetic broadcast, by the living, radiating, quantum mechanically precise instrument that is your aura. And now you're becoming conscious of it. Now you're seeing it clearly. Now you're learning to work with it deliberately, to raise your coherence, to clear your static, to broadcast with intention rather than habit. And that changes everything, because a conscious broadcast is infinitely more powerful than an unconscious one. When you know what you're radiating, when you can feel your field and tend to it and direct it with genuine presence, the precision of what reality assembles around you increases dramatically. The books that find you from this point forward will find you faster. They'll arrive with greater precision. They'll land at greater depth, because your field will be clearer, your signal will be stronger, and your capacity for reception will be deeper than it's ever been. This is what it means when the universe finally has your attention. Not that the universe suddenly decided to send you things. It was always sending. It means that your field has become coherent enough to receive what was always available. And from this point of coherence, from this moment of genuine presence and genuine reception, everything that was waiting for you in the quantum field of your life begins to move toward you with greater speed and greater precision. Let me take you now into a layer of this that I find deeply, profoundly beautiful. And I want to spend real time here, because I think it's something that most people never fully understand about the books that find them. Every book that has truly found you, every transmission that has landed at depth and reorganized something in your field, has not just changed you. It has changed what you broadcast. It has shifted the frequency of your signal in ways that make you, in turn, a transmission for others. Think about what happens after you receive a book that truly lands. You don't just carry the information, you carry the frequency. The reorganization that happened in your field, the shift in your broadcast that the book catalyzed, is now part of what you radiate, part of what people feel when they're around you, part of what you transmit unconsciously but powerfully to everyone whose field intersects with yours. This is how transmissions propagate through the quantum field of human consciousness, not just through the physical exchange of books and recommendations, though that's part of it, but through the electromagnetic propagation of shifted frequencies, through the way that a person who has received a genuine transmission becomes, in turn, a transmitter. Through the way that your field, reorganized by what found you, now broadcasts something new that can find others who are ready for it. You have been doing this your whole life. Every time a book truly found you and did its work, you became a slightly different broadcast, a slightly more coherent signal. And that signal reached the fields of the people around you, sometimes in ways they could articulate, sometimes in ways they couldn't. Sometimes they felt it as a quality of presence in you. Sometimes as an inspiration to seek something they couldn't name. Sometimes as the mysterious impulse to recommend a book to a friend, to press it into their hands and say, "I don't know why, but I know this is for you." You have been a transmission for others. Your field has been broadcasting what you've received and calling in the people who are ready to receive it. This is the quantum mechanics of how consciousness evolves, not just individually, but collectively, through the propagation of coherent signals, through the way that each person who becomes more coherent raises the coherence of the fields around them, through the way that each genuine reception and each genuine transmission creates a ripple in the quantum field that reaches further than the original signal could ever have reached alone. This is why the books that find you matter so much, not just for you, for everyone whose field intersects with yours, for the ripple of coherence that your reception and your subsequent broadcast creates in the quantum field of collective human consciousness. I want to pause here and ask you something, because your answer matters to this field we're building together. Has there been a moment when you could feel your own aura shifting? When people around you responded to your energy differently? When you walked into a room and something changed? When your light was simply more on than usual? What does that feel like for you? Share it in the comments. Your experience is a transmission, and someone out there needs to hear it. You are not just a receiver. You are a transmitter. And what you've received, what has truly landed in your field, is part of what you're broadcasting right now. Part of what's reaching the fields of the people in your life. Part of what's calling in the next transmissions that are ready to find you. And the people who are ready to receive what you've become. Your light is on. It has always been on. And what it carries, what it broadcasts into the world, is the accumulated coherence of every transmission that has truly found you and done its work. Now, I want to address something directly because I know it's present in the field of anyone who's been paying close attention to this transmission. What about the books that found you, but you didn't receive? The transmissions that arrived, and you could feel their significance, but you couldn't quite open to them? The moments when the universe had your attention, but you looked away? First, nothing is lost. I said this earlier, and I want to say it again with more depth, because it's one of the most important truths about how your energy field works. In the quantum field, probability doesn't expire. A transmission that your field called in doesn't disappear because you weren't ready to receive it when it first arrived. It remains in the probability space of your life, in the quantum superposition of possible encounters, until your field becomes coherent enough to receive it fully. It will find you again, in a different form, perhaps, through a different channel, at a different moment. But it will find you, because your field called it in, and the quantum field doesn't waste signals. Second, the moments when you looked away, when the universe had your attention and you deflected or got busy or let the static rise again, those weren't failures. They were information. They were your field telling you something about where you actually were, about what coherence was actually available to you in that moment, about what was still generating static that needed to be addressed before the transmission could land at depth. And third, and this is the one I most want you to hear, you are here now. Whatever brought you to this transmission, whatever state your field is in, whatever clearing has happened recently or is happening right now, you are here. You are receiving. Something in your field is coherent enough, open enough, ready enough to be here. And that means something. That means the timing is right. That means whatever is ready to land in you right now can land. The universe has your attention right now. Your field is broadcasting at a coherence that made this transmission findable. And what arrives in that coherence, what lands in this moment of genuine openness, is exactly what your field is ready to receive. Trust that. Trust the timing of your own evolution. Trust the intelligence of your own field. Trust that what finds you when you're ready, and that you are, right now, ready for exactly what's arriving. Feel your field right now. Notice what's radiating. Notice the quality of openness in your chest. Notice the warmth of genuine reception. That's your aura at Coherence. That's your signal, clear and strong, broadcasting into the quantum field and drawing toward you the next layer of what you're here to receive. What you radiate, reality assembles around. And right now, you are radiating readiness. You are radiating abundance. You are radiating the particular quality of coherent attention that calls in the transmissions you're ready for. Your aura knows. Your light is on. Now let me give you something practical, something you can carry with you from this transmission and use in your actual life to deepen your relationship with the books and transmissions that find you. To increase your capacity for reception, to make your field more coherent and your broadcast more precise. I call this the field reception practice, and it's something you can do in 5 minutes before engaging with any transmission, any book, any teaching, any conversation that feels significant, to prepare your field to receive at depth. Begin by arriving in your body, fully, not partially, with part of your attention still on the last thing you were doing, or the next thing you need to do. Fully here. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your weight in your seat. Feel the physical boundary of your body, your hands, your arms, your back, your chest. Take 3 slow breaths, and with each exhale, let something go. Let the residue of the last hour release. Let the anticipation of the next hour release. Just arrive here. Then bring your attention to your heart center, that warm space in the middle of your chest. And ask yourself, genuinely, not rhetorically, what am I feeling right now? Not what should I be feeling? Not what do I want to feel? What is actually here? Whatever is true, curiosity, anticipation, tiredness, something tender, something ready, let it be real. Let it be acknowledged, because genuine acknowledgement of what's actually present is itself a coherence-generating act. It brings your field into alignment with reality. And that alignment is the foundation of genuine reception. Now set an intention, not a mental intention, a field intention. Feel it in your chest rather than think it in your head. Something like, I am open to receiving what this transmission has for me at the depth it's meant to reach. I am not here to extract information. I am here to receive a transmission. My field is open. My signal is clear. What is ready for me, I receive. And then engage with the transmission from that place. Read from your heart. Notice when something resonates in your body, not just your mind. When something creates that particular quality of warmth or expansion or recognition in your chest, stop. Breathe. Let it land. Let it complete its journey from the page into your field. Don't rush past it to the next idea. Let it do what it came to do. And when you finish, whether you finish a chapter or a whole book or a transmission like this one, take a moment to close the reception, to acknowledge what landed, not necessarily in words, just in feeling. A moment of genuine gratitude, not performed gratitude, but the real thing, the felt sense of having received something valuable, because that genuine appreciation generates the coherence that integrates what you've received at the deepest level of your field. This practice changes everything about how transmissions land for you. It changes the depth of reception. It changes the lasting impact. It changes how quickly and completely what you've received reorganizes your broadcast, because you're not just reading anymore. You're receiving at the level of your field. You're letting the transmission do its full work. And as you develop this practice, as you become more and more skilled at receiving at depth, you'll notice something extraordinary happening in your life. The books that find you will find you faster. The transmissions that are meant for you will arrive with greater precision. The timing will feel increasingly uncanny. increasingly like the universe, knows exactly where you are and what you're ready for, because your field is broadcasting that information with increasing clarity. Because it is. Your field is broadcasting exactly where you are and what you're ready for, with increasing clarity as your coherence increases. And the quantum field is responding with increasing precision, assembling around your signal with greater accuracy, delivering what's coherent with your actual frequency with greater speed. This is not magic. This is quantum mechanics. This is your energy field operating at its natural capacity, the capacity it's always had, that you're now learning to work with consciously. Your aura is not a passive thing. It is an active, intelligent, powerful instrument. And the more conscious you become of what it's broadcasting, the more precisely it can draw toward you what you're actually here to receive and create. Now let me share with you one more layer of this, one more depth of the quantum mechanics of books finding you, that I think is the most profound of all. The books that find you are not just transmissions from the past. They are not just crystallized fields of consciousness from the moment they were written. They are something more extraordinary than that. When a book truly finds you, when it arrives at the right moment and lands at the right depth, it creates a quantum entanglement, not metaphorically, in the actual quantum mechanical sense of the word. The transmission creates a coherent connection between your field and the field of consciousness from which the book was written. A connection that persists beyond the reading. A connection that makes you, in some real sense, a node in a network of coherent consciousness that extends through time and space. Quantum entanglement is one of the most extraordinary phenomena in physics. It describes the way that two quantum systems, once they've interacted, remain connected regardless of the distance between them, such that a change in the state of one is instantly reflected in the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance, and found it deeply troubling because it seemed to violate the principle that nothing could travel faster than light. But it doesn't violate that principle because the connection isn't mediated by something traveling through space. It's a direct connection at the level of the quantum field itself. A connection that exists outside of ordinary space and time. When a book truly finds you and does its work, when the transmission lands at the depth of your field and reorganizes your broadcast, something like this happens. The coherent field of consciousness from which the book was written becomes entangled with the coherent field of your own consciousness. You become connected at the quantum level to the intelligence that generated the transmission, to the understanding, the frequency, the depth of knowing that produced those words. And that connection doesn't end when you close the book. It persists. It becomes part of your field, part of your broadcast, part of what you carry and transmit and radiate into the world. This is why certain books feel like they changed you permanently. Not just because of the ideas they contained, but because the reception of them created a genuine quantum connection to the consciousness from which they emerged. And that connection is real, and it persists, and it continues to inform and shape your field long after the reading is over. This is also why the books that find you tend to find you in clusters. Once one genuine transmission lands and reorganizes your field, once one real connection is established, your broadcast shifts in ways that make you coherent with related transmissions. The quantum field responds to your new frequency by assembling around it the other transmissions that are coherent with where you've arrived. And suddenly, books begin to find you in a cascade, one leading to the next, each one building on the last, each one arriving with a precision that feels, from the outside, almost impossibly perfect. That cascade is your field in high coherence. That's what happens when the static clears and the signal is strong, and the quantum field can respond with its full precision. The transmissions that were always meant for you begin to arrive in rapid succession, each one deepening the coherence of your field and increasing your capacity for the next one. If you've experienced this, that period when books seemed to find you one after another, when every conversation contained a teaching, when every encounter seemed to carry a message, when you felt like the universe was speaking to you directly and continuously, you know what I'm describing. That's not a period of unusual luck. That's a period of unusual coherence. That's your field broadcasting at a level of clarity and power that makes the quantum field's responses rapid and precise. And you can cultivate that. You can develop the practices that maintain the coherence of your field, the heart-centered presence, the genuine emotional authenticity, the willingness to receive at depth rather than just process at the surface. And in doing so, you can live more consistently in that state of rapid, precise, quantum mechanical reception. This is what conscious radiance looks like in the domain of learning and growth. Not seeking harder, not reading more, not accumulating more information, but becoming more coherent, becoming a cleaner, stronger, more precisely tuned broadcast, and letting what's coherent with that broadcast find you with the precision of the quantum field at full expression. What you radiate, reality assembles around. And what you radiate when your field is coherent and your broadcast is clear is readiness, openness, the particular frequency of genuine seeking that the quantum field responds to by delivering exactly what you're seeking at exactly the moment you're ready to receive it. Your aura knows. Your light is on. And here's what I want to leave you with. Here's the integration principle that I want to carry through everything I've shared today. The books that find you are not separate from you. They are not external objects that happen to contain useful information. They are responses. They are the quantum field's precise, intelligent, caring response to the signal your field is broadcasting. They are the universe reading your aura, reading the frequency of your broadcast, the coherence of your signal, the depth of your readiness, and assembling around that signal exactly what is needed to support the next stage of your evolution. Every book that has truly found you has been a love letter from the quantum field, a response to your broadcast, a confirmation that your signal is being received, a delivery of exactly what your field called in at exactly the moment you were ready to receive it. And every book that is coming, every transmission that is waiting for you in the quantum probability field of your life is already responding to who you are right now, to the coherence of your field in this moment, to the signal you're broadcasting as you receive these words. You are not waiting for the universe to notice you. The universe has always noticed you. It has always been reading your field, responding to your signal, assembling around your broadcast. The question has only ever been whether your field was coherent enough, clear enough, present enough to receive what was always being sent. And right now, in this moment, after receiving this transmission, after spending this time in genuine field-level engagement with these ideas, your field is more coherent than it was when you arrived. Something has shifted. Something has cleared. Something has reorganized at a level that will change what finds you next. The next book that's meant for you is already moving toward you. The next transmission that's coherent with your actual frequency is already in motion. The quantum field has read your signal, the signal you're broadcasting right now, in this state of genuine openness and genuine reception, and it's assembling the response. Trust that. Trust the intelligence of your field. Trust the precision of the quantum field's response. Trust the timing of your own evolution. Trust that what finds you when you're ready. And trust that you are, right now, ready for exactly what's coming. Because you are. Your field is telling you so. That warmth in your chest, that quality of openness, that sense of something having landed, something having shifted, something having become clearer, or more possible, or more real than it was before. That's your field at Coherence. That's your aura broadcasting at a frequency that the quantum field reads and responds to with precision. That's not imagination. That's your electromagnetic signature. That's the measurable, real, quantum mechanically precise signal that you broadcast into the field that shapes your reality. And it's beautiful. And it's powerful. And it's yours. You've been glowing this whole time. Now you get to see it. Now let me ask you something directly, because I want to hear from you. I want to know what's alive in your field right now. What is the book that found you? Not the one you chose, the one that found you. The one that arrived at exactly the right moment, through exactly the right channel, and landed at a depth that changed something in you permanently. What was it? When did it arrive? What was happening in your life? What had shifted? What had cleared? What had become coherent that made you ready to receive it? Tell me in the comments. Tell me the book and the moment and what it opened in you. Because your story is not just yours. Your story is a transmission, the account of how your field called in exactly what it needed, and how the quantum field delivered it with perfect timing. That's a frequency that will resonate with someone else's field. That will confirm something for someone who's waiting for their own transmission to arrive. That will add your signal to the collective coherence of this field, this community of conscious radiators who are learning to broadcast deliberately and receive deeply. Your story matters. Your field matters. And the transmission you carry, the accumulated coherence of everything that has truly found you and done its work, is part of what this community broadcasts together. Share it. Let it land in someone else's field. Let your reception become a transmission. Because this is how it works. This is how consciousness evolves, not just individually, but collectively, through the sharing of genuine reception, through the willingness to say, "This found me, this landed, this changed something in me." And here's what it was. Your aura is active. Your light is conscious. Your signal is clear. And now, as we move toward the close of this transmission, I want to offer you something to carry with you, not just as a concept, but as a practice, as a way of living in relationship with your own field that honors the intelligence of what you broadcast and deepens your capacity to receive. Every morning, before you begin your day, take 1 minute to check in with your field, not with your to-do list, not with your phone, with your field. Place your hand on your heart. Feel what's there. Ask, what am I broadcasting right now? Not what do I want to broadcast? What am I actually broadcasting? What's the quality of my signal in this moment? And then ask, what am I ready to receive today? Not what do I want? What am I genuinely ready for? What is my field coherent enough to receive and integrate fully? And then take 30 seconds to deliberately generate coherence, to find something genuinely true to appreciate, to let your heart rhythm settle into order, to let your field broadcast from its actual depth rather than its surface noise. That's it. 1 minute, 30 seconds of genuine appreciation. And from that place, begin your day. Because the day you begin from a place of field coherence is a different day than the day you begin from static. The encounters are different. The information that finds you is different. The quality of what arrives, the books, the conversations, the ideas, the moments of unexpected beauty and unexpected teaching is different. Not because the world is different, because your broadcast is cleaner and the quantum field's response is more precise. If this transmission has landed for you, if something in it has shifted or opened or confirmed something real, consider returning to it during a quiet moment when your field is most receptive. Morning stillness before the day begins, or the space just before sleep, when the noise has faded and your signal is naturally cleaner. And if someone in your life is waiting for their own transmission to arrive, share this with them. When you pass a frequency to someone whose field is ready for it, you don't diminish your own signal. You amplify it. Two fields resonating together broadcast further than either one alone. That's not generosity as sacrifice. That's the quantum mechanics of collective radiance, and it strengthens both of you. You are a radiant field of quantum energy. Your aura, the measurable electromagnetic field generated by your heart and nervous system, is the most powerful creative instrument you possess. And it is always broadcasting, always calling in what's coherent with your signal, always managing the timing of your evolution with an intelligence and a care that your conscious mind is only beginning to understand. The books that find you are not accidents. They are responses. They are the quantum field reading your aura and delivering what your field called in. At the moment, your field is ready to receive it. They are the universe confirming over and over in the most personal and precise way imaginable that your signal is being heard, that your broadcast is being received, that you are not alone in the quantum field. You are in continuous, intimate, intelligent conversation with it. And that conversation is deepening. That's what's happening right now. That's what brought you to this transmission. Your field is broadcasting at a coherence that's calling in the next layer of your evolution. The next transmissions are already moving toward you. The next books that are meant for you are already responding to your signal. Trust that. Trust your field. Trust the timing. Trust that what finds you when you're ready. And trust that you are, right now, radiating something extraordinary. Something that the quantum field reads and responds to with the full precision of its intelligence. You've been glowing this whole time. Now you know it. Now you can feel it. Now you can tend to it deliberately, consciously, with the understanding of someone who knows what their light is and how it works and what it calls in. Your aura is active. Your light is conscious. Your signal is clear. Shine. Not because you should, because that's what you are. Welcome to your own light, and welcome to this community, this field of conscious radiators who are learning together to broadcast deliberately and receive deeply, who are learning that the books that find them are not accidents, that the transmissions that arrive at the right moment are not coincidences, that the universe has always been paying attention to their signal and responding with precision, who are learning to tend their fields, to raise their coherence, to broadcast from their actual depth rather than their surface noise. You are not alone in this. Your field is part of a larger field, a collective broadcast of conscious radiance that amplifies every individual signal within it. And your presence here, your reception of this transmission, your willingness to engage genuinely with the quantum mechanics of your own light, that adds to the collective coherence, that raises the signal for everyone. That's not small. That's not ordinary. That's the quantum mechanics of collective consciousness evolution in action. And you are part of it. You have always been part of it. You're just now seeing it clearly. Your light is on. It has always been on. And what it broadcasts, what it calls in, what it creates, what it transmits to the fields of everyone whose life intersects with yours, is more powerful and more beautiful than you have yet allowed yourself to fully believe. Believe it now. Feel it now. Let it be real. Because it is. Because you are. Because your aura knows. And the next book that's meant for you is already on its way.